He was light-headed and lazy-limbed, with a grin he couldn't get rid of and an unfounded sense of wonderfulness. Then the murders began. Stark's millions have come in handy, funding the plush Avengers Mansion, for instance, and his technological wizardry has enabled him to devise all manner of means for getting the team out of trouble. Then the murders began. "Why won't you use your power to protect yourself? I know it's inside you," she bellowed. Satu drew her arms together over her chest, then thrust them out with a string of words. My body rolled into a ball around the jagged pain of my abdomen. The sensation reminded me of my father's eviscerated body, the guts pulled out and lying next to him. Then the murders began. As Astrid landed in the witch tower's open archway, sword swinging at the witches who rushed to kill her, they may as well have been blades of grass. Might as well have been mist for how easily Astrid cut them down, one after another, driving forward toward the matron who had branded the letters on stark display across her abdomen. Unclean. Then the murders began. The various ways you might approach a mayonnaise in your kitchen depends on how you cook. You can make a mayo just as you need it, or you can make a mayonnaise base and use it as needed, adding seasonings and aromatics as the occasion warrants. For instance, if you include mixed shallots in your mayo, you'll need to use that mayo that day, or it might develop an off flavor. But if you make a mayo using only lemon juice and/or water, salt, yolk, and oil, the mixture will be fresh for several days. This way, you might make a mayo on Friday afternoon, season half of it with cumin, coriander, minced red onion, and lime juice, and serve it with grilled steaks that night. You might, the next day, season it with shallot, tarragon for a leftover steak sandwich, and a few days later, season the remainder with fine herbs and toss it with the sliced new potatoes for a potato salad. Then the murders begin. "This is a sword," he said. "An axe can chop wood. With a bow or a lance you can hunt. Knives were first of all tools. The sword is a thing men make solely for killing of their own kind, and those that don't carry them can still die on their blades. Only an honorable man can be trusted with one. What is honor, Apprentice Mallory?" Then the murders began. A small desk had been set to one side of the dais so Vin Kedwin might record the proceedings. He took his place, piled about with sheets of blank parchment, and picked up a small knife to sharpen his quill. Then the murders began. Similarly, the 38 Special, designed at the close of the Black Powder era, got successive speed boosts as the first 38 Special high speed, and finally the 357 Magnum. Then the murders began. "Quick question." Puck's voice broke the silence. "Did anyone bring a can of off?" The wolf gave him a confused look, and I raised an eyebrow. Do I even want to know? "Probably not." Then the murders began. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Then the murders began. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then the murders began. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with the cry of command, with the archangel's call, and with the sound of the trumpet of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. And then the murders begin. If any man in the community misbehaves in any way, we will take him out and whip him. If he's not satisfied with that, we will put him to a limb. Let the murders begin. She tossed the staff back to me, imprecisely, and I fumbled for it for a second, and nearly dropped it. I had a hell of a time catching it in my right hand and keeping my left arm bent enough so I could keep the knife from slipping out of my sleeve. The brass hilt of the knife clinked against the aluminum splint still on my arm. And then the murders began.
I first saw the Constitution of the United States in a foreign country. I read it with great satisfaction, as the result of good heads, prompted by good hearts. I have repeatedly laid myself under the most serious obligations to support the Constitution. What other form of government, indeed, can be so well deserved of our esteem and love? John Adams on the Constitution. And then the murders began.